Hi, everyone. Welcome to Dividends, the show for and about your College of Business. And today we're going to do something a little different. My guest is Michael Seymour in Landscape Architecture. And we have been working for several months now on a collaborative project between the College of Business, Landscape Architecture, and the City of Columbus. And I like this because it's a collaboration. And hopefully we're going to help a community, and I think a land grant institution should do that. So that's a very long introduction, but good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I guess we need to lay out what the project is. You want to take a stab at that?
Sure. So we are working on a site in Columbus that's the former site of Kerr McGee, and it's a brownfield site, which is that it's a contaminated site.
Right. For decades, the facility treated railroad ties, telephone poles with creosote, correct?
Right.
And that ended up getting into the ground.
Right. So it's a Superfund site, EPA program, and they're now trying to look at what kinds of things could go on the site after it's been remediated.
And when you say they, and I think this is a key part of the project, the folks who ask us to get involved, they want the folks who live in the neighborhood to come up with ideas on how to reuse that facility, which I think poses some challenges, but I think it's the right thing to do because it's a poor neighborhood, lower socioeconomic neighborhood. So I think it's important to bring them in and get their input.
Absolutely. I mean, they're the people who have dealt with that site for many decades. There have been health problems in the community, people who've had their property values lowered by living near a contaminated site. So we're looking to try to, remediate some of that damage as well.
And so our role is for your students to help visualize what could be. And then our students in the College of Business, our MBA students, and you'll meet one of them in just a few minutes, to try to look at how you crunch the numbers to make something happen. But let's talk about the experience that your students have had, as far as meeting with the residents and how they have felt about that, and just the uniqueness of this as a teaching class.
Yeah, I think it's been great for them. I mean, it's always good for the students to get some experience dealing with communities and real people and real problems. So in this situation, they've had an opportunity to go to some community meetings. They've been out to visit the site and walk around the neighborhood. They've had community members come to their presentations to see their work. And it just helps to build a feeling of empathy in the students. And I think one of the things that landscape architects need to be good at is hearing from people in the community so that they can make sure that to sort of accommodate their needs.
I sat in the back of the room when your students presented to some of the residents, and I sensed a real feeling of gratitude from the residents. I think some of the drawings were really nice and really well thought out and elaborate, and I think the residents got that the students had put a lot of work into that. Did you?
Right.
Did the students feel that, and did they react to that at all?
Yeah, they did. I think it always encourages them when the community comes out and feels like they did a good job. We had one of the residents who said that she thought all the students deserved an A, which they really appreciated.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. So this has sort of been a several-step process where you gathered some initial ideas and now you've winnowed those down. What is the final presentation look like?
So the students initially each did 3 concepts for the site so that they could sort of explore some different ideas.
What are some of those?
So there's a lot of things to think about with that site.
It's 90 acres, so it's a big site.
Yeah, so some of it's in the floodplain, some of it is more contaminated than other portions of the site. So they had a lot to think about there. I think in most cases they're looking at doing a denser, kind of walkable town center sort of development.
Mixed use?
Yeah, it's a community that is a little bit lower density. On this site, they're really looking to provide sort of a community center for the community.
I noticed several of the renderings had some healthcare facilities in them, and perhaps a little bit of shopping and some back office business space as well. And there were some other ideas, some parks, some walking trails and things like that.
Right. Yeah, they've tried to mix a lot of different uses in there in order to make it a very lively, walkable, useful town center for the community.
And there's two pieces to this puzzle. So you folks are doing what it's going to look like, and then how do you actually make it happen? And our next guest, Madison Poole, is an MBA student who's working on crunching the numbers and finding a way to bring these drawings to life. So we'll take a break and come back, and you'll meet her in just a moment. Michael, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
There are a number of student activities that students can get involved with, but few of them know that they can start a company while they're in school. We want students to consider that when they come to school here, they have 4 years to create themselves a job, create a new venture, and that's really what the center's here to provide. We're here to provide the resources, connections, and programs that can help them start a company. The background of our students is extremely diverse. All across campus, students are getting involved, forming these companies, and people, all sorts of different backgrounds coming together to create these startups that are just doing amazing things. Regardless of where you're at in the entire startup process, whether you're coming in with a fresh idea, already have an established company, or just are trying to get interested in entrepreneurship, we want to put students in a position where they feel encouraged and supported to pursue their passions so they can make an impact no matter what field or industry they go into.
Welcome back, everyone. My next guest is Madison Poole. She is an MBA student in the College of Business, just finishing up.
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We should tell folks that the last thing you do before you get your MBA is something called the Capstone class.
That is correct.
All right, and how would you describe that class? I mean, the mechanics of how it works.
The Capstone class combines all of the classes that we've had over the course of the program. So it combines finance, economics, all the factors of business. And so the Capstone class puts our class members into teams where we take on a client and we work with the client to either help them sell a product on the market or complete some project, and we help them develop reports and figure out what to do and plan ahead. And once we're done, we present that information with them, and if all is well, then that company or that client will be able to push their product further or finish their project, and we would have actually helped a real life client.
Well, and you have been tasked with a very unique project, and that is your client is an entire city. And that's the city of Columbus. So you have been working with the city, the community, and the landscape architecture team, and trying to take the vision of the folks in the neighborhood and figure out the mechanics of the feasibility of actually doing that. So what did that involve?
That involved working with our clients and the community to find out at first what they even would like to have on the site. So working with landscape architecture has been very helpful because it kind of gives us an idea of what the community is looking at. And once they provide us with ideas, do they want commercial options? Do they want public use facilities? We can then go look for funding opportunities, whether they be governmental on the federal or state side, if there's any foundations out there that would like to help social projects on site. And so our job as the MBA team is to work with them to make it all happen.
Can you give an example of a possibility that you explored that you'll be presenting to the residents of either a grant or how they would bring in some retail or something that you researched?
Yes, so we have several federal agencies that we've looked into. The USDA provides grants to developing projects that help wetlands or different ag facilities on site. So you can have a historical part of the site talking about the community and what's happened and how it affected the environment, and different like USDA and several other agencies would provide funding for that. There's also, we have companies that we've looked into like Walmart. They have satellite stores. The community is smaller, but bringing in satellite stores like the neighborhood market would benefit the community, and they would be interested in coming to the site if we can show how that they could have an environmental impact, so provide to the community themselves, which benefits their image, and also how they can benefit the community, and just it would be a smaller but also feasible use for the site.
And how is this experience, the entire MBA experience, and then this experience in particular, how has that helped you? I mean, you're going to graduate here in December and you're going to go off and conquer the world. How has it helped prepare you for what's ahead?
It's helped me see, I have to look at all of the different aspects. So not just, hey, there's a grant out there. Well, how is that grant going to help us? How is it going to affect the community? Is it even feasible in the first place? And then see, you have to look at the, apart from the short run, which is graduating, but it's letting me see that whatever I do, I have to look at how it affects everyone involved, not just myself, the community, and gives me a more broader image and has showed me that what I do actually impacts people in the
and you
future.
Want to be an auditor for the government?
Yes.
Like IRS or FBI?
Right, I want to do white collar crime investigations. So corporate fraud and following the money trail, which will then again help the community, help others, and benefit the world as a whole.
Wow. Well, I know you're going to be successful. I've told you before, you're one of the best MBA students that we've ever had.
Thank you.
And we wish you a lot of luck. And I know the people from Columbus are going to benefit from the research you have done. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being with us. That's going to do it for this edition of Dividends. We'll see you next time.